We're packing up and hitting the road, but don't worry, we're not going far, just across the Columbia, where Clark County is having a glow-up.
What we've seen is this major shift of Vancouver becoming its own destination.
Tonight we're doing the entire show from Clark County, an area that's seen a huge amount of growth lately.
We're growing quickly. 5,000 people move here a year. A lot of them are from Multnomah County.
What is it about this community that makes it so special?
We have the parks, we have the trails, we have livability issues, very similar to Portland. It's just a little bit different, maybe a little bit calmer.
But with growth comes growing pains.
They need the reliability that they can get over that bridge in a timely manner.
Here's The Story on the road, live in Clark County. I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. We brought this show out live here in Clark County because we're going to do stories on Vancouver and Clark County. But don't worry, it's the same show. We still want to hear from you. We still want your emails, your questions, your comments, your story ideas. You can email us, thestory@kgw.com. You can talk to us on social, #TheStoryKGW, or you can leave us a good old-fashioned voicemail. Our phone number is 503-226-5090. Well, we're here in this particular spot on the beautiful Vancouver waterfront because it's a great representation of the renewal and rebirth that's really taken place here. In the last 5 years, none of this stuff was here. And so that makes our big story all about growth. To understand how the Vancouver waterfront became what it is today, you have to go way back to the 1840s, when a woman named Esther Short settled with her husband and 8 kids near Fort Vancouver. You might recognize her name from the park in downtown Vancouver now. Establishing their new home was not easy for the Shorts. British men from the nearby Hudson Bay Company, trying to keep American settlers south of the Columbia River, repeatedly knocked down the family's fences in an effort to force them out. Things escalated when, with her husband away, the Hudson's Bay men forced Esther and her 8 children into a raft and set them floating down the Columbia River. Esther outsmarted them and steered the raft safely back to shore and then went home. The Hudson's Bay men wouldn't give up, so the Short family fought back, literally. Esther's husband, Amos, shot and killed 2 men who demanded the land, and Esther slapped a lieutenant so hard it knocked him down. After that, the Hudson's Bay Company finally left the family alone. Esther Short eventually helped build the city of Vancouver. She donated to the city the land that became the park named after her, and the long section of land along the riverfront.
Esther platted the city of Vancouver, and she's known as our city's mother. And from 1857 going forward, from the incorporation of the city has really just kind of been a center of commerce and agriculture and a growing community.
In the last century, Vancouver's population has grown quickly. During World Wars I and II, the riverfront was used for shipbuilding. The city's population exploded as tens of thousands of people came to work the shipyards near the interstate bridge. In the 1950s, a second bridge across the Columbia was proposed, which eventually became the Glenn Jackson Bridge. Investors started buying up land near the bridge, thinking people would move there, and they were right. In 1997, the city annexed that area, adding more than 58,000 residents, and Vancouver became the 4th largest city in Washington. Since World War II, a lot of people moved out to the suburbs, and the downtown core got a little neglected. But in 1998, the city renovated Esther Short Park and the surrounding area, and eventually they set their sights on the waterfront.
We've got this beautiful view downtown, and it was underused.
The city's mayor said back in 2018 that turning the waterfront into an area that everyone can enjoy is exactly what Esther Short would have wanted.
And her wish was that this property would be used for economic development, but also to give the public access to the waterfront. And I think she would be pretty pleased with what we have here.
Plans for the waterfront include restaurants and a public market to rival Pike Place Market in Seattle. Also thousands of apartments and condos, along with office buildings and hotels. Demolition of older buildings is underway. Earlier this year, the Red Line at the Quay came down, along with the old Joe's Crab Shack. Meanwhile, new places are opening and new projects are underway, including the Waterfront Gateway. Designers have a big vision for the area between the waterfront and downtown.
It's probably more of a European style of development we're looking for, where you kind of walk down and you've got a retail street and you've got, retail or restaurants on both sides.
Artistic and historical details have been incorporated into all of the new developments, and designers hope people will come from all over to enjoy downtown Vancouver.
There's no reason not to believe that Vancouver and Southwest Washington will continue to grow, both in the availability of jobs and economy. We've got lots of people that want to move to Southwest Washington, whether they're coming from the north or the south.
It's amazing. It looks even better than we ever imagined it looking, and it's just fantastic.
To see something like this come to Vancouver, it kind of compares us with the waterfront in Portland. I think this is a little better, though. A little prejudice.
Vancouver and Clark County are both on steep growth curves. Vancouver currently has about 195,000 people, and there's about 500,000 in the county. You know, these two areas used to be just bedroom communities for the greater Portland area, but not anymore. Now they stand on their own, and there's more people coming all the time. That's another part of our growth story in the big story. The Vancouver waterfront is a big attraction here, with lots of room to roam and view the mighty Columbia River. As time goes by, these walkways will likely get more crowded because the city is growing. On average, 14 new people move to Vancouver every day, every month, all year long.
People usually come to the Pacific Northwest for Portland and then discover Vancouver. What we've seen is this major shift of Vancouver becoming its own destination.
Giovanni Cafiso is a realtor who works in both Portland and Vancouver.
What clients really like about Vancouver is the affordability. Things are generally less expensive here than they are in Portland. The second piece is the value. We see that you can get a lot more for your money here, more house, more land than you can in Oregon.
According to Realtor.com, the median price for a home in Portland is $550,000, or about $388 per square foot. In Vancouver, the median price is $495,000, or $288 a square foot. Neither is cheap, but you can see why so many check out Vancouver homes.
Well, it's quieter. It's quiet.
Greg Cowan grew up in Northeast Portland. In 2016, he and his wife moved to Vancouver. He said similar homes here were half as much then as in Portland, and the tax climate was better for when he eventually sold his business. But he moved here mostly for the quiet.
We're lucky. I mean, we have a little bit more property around us. We used to joke that when we come home from work, it was like our country house. So, and the downtown's been improving. So the restaurant scene's been improving. There's less traffic. I mean, basically, just a little bit slower and quieter.
Another thing that's also slow, the commute in and out of Portland. 70,000 people a day make the drive from Vancouver to Portland to work. It's one of the many reasons there's a push on to build the new bridge across the Columbia River. And all those people moving to Vancouver are giving it some growing pains. Crime is up, homeless issues too.
This yellow area, this is
what's next? Probably growth. Clark County has a growth plan showing where the city of Vancouver will one day expand. It's there in the yellow. There are no timelines for when that would happen at the moment.
Growth in Vancouver over the last 10 years has been robust.
City planners are thinking about that. Vancouver has a welcoming attitude for developers and businesses and anyone else who wants to build here or move and live here. The city is growing.
The next, I think, really important step is we're updating our comprehensive plan, and folks who are familiar with...
That's going to put a lot of people to sleep.
Okay. Well, we're updating our growth plan. So where are we going to see, we're growing quickly. 5,000 people move here a year. A lot of them are from Multnomah County, though they're coming from elsewhere as well, attracted to quality schools, maybe a more friendly tax structure. So we need to think about really carefully where are those folks going to go. And how are they going to get around? Where are they going to work? How are they going to access the things they need to prosper here?
Some of the growth here is from people moving over from Portland to the Vancouver area to get away from some of the homeless issues and some of the crime, but still having jobs on the other side of the river, which is why they put up with the unbelievable commute. It took me 45 minutes just to come from Southwest Portland in this afternoon, about 3:30. So it's really something that they do struggle with. Recently, I had a chance to talk with Vancouver's mayor about that. Ann McInerney Ogle was elected to the city council back in 2014 and became the first woman mayor in Vancouver when she was elected in 2018. Her background is in math and teaching. She taught in the Lake Oswego School District for 30 years. So yes, indeed, during much of that time, she commuted from Vancouver, which is why we started our discussion with the future of the I-5 bridge. Mayor, thank you so much for being here, being available, engineering this gorgeous day for us.
Isn't this perfect?
It's
awesome.
a
wonderful day.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about that bridge behind you. I know you have some distinct thoughts about what should happen with the I-5 bridge.
Right. So both states have been working on this for over 7 years, and we're looking at that modified locally preferred alternative. The middle of July, 7 agencies will be voting on that LPA. I understand TriMet just passed the resolution, so that's one of the 8. But we're looking forward to replacing it, putting light rail in, bringing it over just to downtown Vancouver. It'll stop right there next to our beautiful library. But then we'll have the study of one auxiliary lane. We have a full bridge planned. So the IBR program knows that right now we just have 3 little lanes. We'll have shoulder, aux lane, doubling the size of that bridge and making it a full bridge. We're looking forward to it.
And I read somewhere that there were concerns that at least one of the designs might interfere with the waterfront area here.
No, I'm sure that is a concern, but the engineers have figured out how to thread that needle on our side of the river. We need to drop it into its same little slot between the National Park Service and our city. We'll make it happen, so they'll build it on the downstream side of the current bridge, and it'll swing right into that area.
Okay. And as we have airplanes going overhead, how does that impact the city?
It always does. But that is part of the reason why a lot of people actually move into the Portland, or like we enjoy saying, the Vancouver metropolitan area, because it's 2 hours to the mountains, 2 hours to the beach, and it's close to PDX. I can get from my home to the parking lot in the long-term parking at PDX, get through the security, and have a cup of coffee in 21 minutes. Nice. We appreciate PDX, but we also have our own little Pearson Airport that we'll be keeping even through the bridge project.
I think that was one of the best spins I've ever had on a comment like the noise from the airplane.
That's right. But it's also, we know that we have the military that fly over, the sound of freedom, if you would. As we see them practice and they take off 2 and 4 at a time, they're loud and noisy, but it's also that security that we absolutely need, because they are not just for Oregon, they're for Washington and Seattle and everything else.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about the commute, because you yourself did that commute
Yes.
for 30 years as a school teacher in Lake Oswego.
So I started teaching in Lake Oswego, married into Vancouver. 24 of those years were commuting across that bridge. And each fall had to add another 5 minutes to that morning commute, to the point that we were leaving at 6 in the morning to get to first period class. Wow. So I know that commute. In fact, never made it home on that first night when we were signing the papers to the House, a semi-jackknife in the middle of that northbound bridge. Never made it
Classic.
home.
Classic.
So we know how important that is, not just to the commuters, but to all the freight coming up out of the Port of Vancouver. They need the reliability that they can get over that bridge in a timely manner. And everything from Portland comes north to Seattle.
All right, but as far as the people that live here and commute to Portland, what is it about this community that makes it so special that people like you are willing to put up with that?
Well, 70,000 people do that. Part of the reason, and it was the same reason for us, we couldn't afford our home in Portland. We had a little better affordability here in the Vancouver-Clark County area. Some people will come because we have no income tax. Some people will be coming over here because their jobs are over here. They might work over, or they might live in Portland and they commute in a reverse. And we're seeing more and more of that. But I think it's because we have good schools, We can live, work, and play here. We have Vancouver Symphony. Yay, how exciting. We have the parks, we have the trails, we have livability issues, very similar to Portland. It's just a little bit different, maybe a little bit calmer. We have about a fourth of the population that Portland has. A lot of the same amenities, just a little quieter maybe.
About 5,000 people a year move here. The mayor says it's currently the second largest city in the greater metro area. We call it the greater Portland metro area. As you heard there, the mayor likes to call it the greater Vancouver metro area.
Washington's primary is just over a month away. In Southwest Washington, the moderate Republican incumbent is facing two far-right challengers.
She's specifically on the griddle because she first of all voted to impeach Donald Trump.
One of them backed by President Trump.
But it's turned into a bit of drama because it's a referendum on Donald Trump, much like we're seeing in a lot of other races around the country.
When the Story Clark County version returns.
Welcome back. We're live in Vancouver. Not a lot of people out on the waterfront right now, maybe because it's in the 90s, but usually this area is packed. It's gorgeous. Keep sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com. I've seen some of them come in already. And Mike, yes, we are letting the secret out of the bag about what your community, Vancouver, here is all about. It does seem to be wonderful. You could also give us a call, leave a voicemail at 503-226-5090. Well, if you live here in Southwest Washington, you've probably seen a fair number of TV ads about the congressional race up here. In fact, there was one on KGW about 8 minutes before our show came on. Republican Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler is being challenged by two far right side candidates who are also Republicans. One, Joe Kent, is being backed by former President Donald Trump. I spoke with our political analyst Len Bergstein about that and about what that means for Herrera Butler's re-election chances.
Yeah, this should be an easy re-elect for Jamie Herrera Butler, who is obviously the incumbent. She won her last race by 56% against the Democrat. I think it should be an easy re-elect for her, a relatively safe Republican seat, according to all of the national prognosticators. But it's turned into a bit of drama because it's a referendum on Donald Trump, much like we're seeing in a lot of other races around the country. Not the same level of intensity, but it clearly is a Donald Trump referendum. So she's being attacked in the Republican Party by two far-right Republicans. One, a guy named Joe Kent, who's kind of a former Green Beret and is the darling of Fox News Network, and Heidi St. John. Both of them have come at her from the right side of the spectrum, and she's specifically on the griddle because she first of all voted to impeach Donald Trump. So she's one of 10. So that marks her in some of the Republican ranks as being, someone to go after. And number two, she was involved in discussions with Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader, right at the time of January 6th. And she revealed that he had had a direct conversation with Trump, which I think opened up a lot of interest in just what were Congress people talking to the president about, what were they calls like, and why did the president not respond to those? And it really opened up, I think, a whole line of inquiry that the January 6th committee is really delving into. So she's at the focal point of a couple of things.
It'll sure be interesting to watch. Washington's primary is August 2nd. The top two vote getters are going to go on to the general election, so that'll be interesting as well. That means it could be two Democrats or two Republicans. When we come back, we're going to go up the road a little bit to one of the largest landmarks here in Clark County, Fort Vancouver. It was once host of one of the greatest fireworks shows west of the Mississippi. I loved being there, but times have now changed. We're going to take a look in the KGW vault when the story returns. We've moved up the road a little bit now to Fort Vancouver because we're just a week away from the 4th of July. And in the past, this place has had some of the best fireworks shows that I've ever been to. Lots of people come, maybe tens of thousands. They bring their families, they spread out, have picnics, there's music, there's games. It's incredible. But this year, it's not going to happen exactly that way. There will be no big 4th of July celebration here. Instead, on the 3rd of July, there will be games and music and tours, but no fireworks. The people who put on the show say they're worried about fire dangers and also low staffing if something were to go wrong. So instead, they'll have kind of a subdued version on the 3rd of July. And since you can't see what it's going to be like or what it was like in the past, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take you back into our vault at KGW because we can do this so well. Way back to 1995 when we had our very first live fireworks show broadcast from right here.
Let's go check in with Pat Doris now. He is high above us in Sky 8. Pat, I don't imagine there's much of a traffic problem right now, is there?
Hey, Carol, it is a great view up here. You just can't believe it. We're going to show you the view from Sky 8. You're looking out across the river and onto the other side of Marine Drive where the police had warned that there may be problems earlier. And in fact, as we were taking off about 15 minutes ago while it was still light, we could see it was bumper to bumper on both sides of the road there. And the police were patrolling it. So if you have any thoughts of getting out there late, I'd forget about it because the traffic really is intense. We're going to be hanging up here all night long. It's really hard to describe just how cool it is to see all the little neighborhood fireworks going off below us, and we'll also show you some of the big ones as they go off during the show. But right now, back to you guys.
I am amazed to hear that, Pat. Judging from the size of the crowd here, I would have thought everybody had already made it. I guess not.
And right now, as you look from Sky 8, we are ready to give you the best fireworks display west of the Mississippi. And everyone, it's that time. Let the show begin.
Welcome to the 97.1 Kissin' FM 1995 Fort Vancouver 4th of July Fireworks Spectacular with KGW Northwest News Channel 8.
Oh, those were good times. I'll never forget seeing those big mortars go off at eye level. Although, fun fact, inside the helicopter with the headphones on, you can't hear the boom, which is one of my favorite parts. Keep sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com. When we come back, how you can help your community. Before we leave Vancouver on this beautiful and somewhat warm evening here, we want to make sure we're doing something good for the community. So this week, our Hey Help campaign goes to Fish of Vancouver. They're a food pantry that's been around for more than 50 years here. They feed more than 1,000 families a month, but they say their inventory is low right now, and the number of people who need their help has been increasing in the last few months. To donate, turn your phone's camera on right now, hold it up to this QR code on your screen. That'll take you to a donation page, or you can go directly to kgw.com/heyhelp. As always, this is a micro donation drive, so no amount too small or too big. You could give as little as $1, $5, whatever you have to spare. It all goes to a good cause, feeding people right here in Clark County. Well, that's our show. Thanks for joining us tonight. And one last moment before we go, we want to do more of these out in your community. So shoot us an email. Let us know where we should go next and the kind of stories we should be telling. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us tonight. And remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow.